Africa now means business, and it's not just business as usual. 3 African nations have just done the unthinkable. For decades, Western powers, America and Europe, have painted a picture of African nations as incapable of managing their own finances. We've been told repeatedly that we need their systems, their banks, their experts to help us survive. But today, that narrative is collapsing in real time. While the world was distracted by conflicts, climate crises, and celebrity scandals, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, collectively now known as the Sahel Alliance, have pulled off something that no one expected. They have come together to create a new central bank, a monetary union, and a development fund, something the ECOWAS bloc has struggled to do for over 30 years. They did it quietly, and they did it boldly. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered why a continent with over $4.4 trillion worth of natural resources still has a poverty rate of over 40%? Have you ever asked why foreign corporations become richer and more powerful by extracting gold, lithium, uranium, oil, cotton, and cobalt from African soil, while Africans themselves remain poor? The answer is simple but powerful. It's all about who controls the money, and for the first time in modern history, that control is shifting. This is not just a political story. It's an economic earthquake, a revolution that is shaking the foundations of the global financial order. And whether CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, or CNBC talk about it or not, it's happening right now. Let me give you an example. International development workers have reported that farmers across Mali are growing enough food to feed hundreds, yet they can't afford to pay their children's school fees. How is that possible? They've done the work, they've fed the people, yet they remain broke. The reason is deeply structural. The economic system was not designed for ordinary Africans to succeed. And that's what this video and this moment is all about. We are finally decoding the truth behind the system that has kept Africa dependent, indebted, and divided. The good news? Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are now breaking free. They are flipping the table on an unfair financial system. According to a recent World Bank report, small-scale farmers in the Sahel region are paying up to 45% interest rates on loans, interest rates that would be illegal in most Western countries. Meanwhile, the prices of their crops are set in London and Chicago, not in Bamako or Ouagadougou, and not based on local conditions or effort. And the currency they use, yes, the CFA franc, is still controlled by the French Treasury, a colonial relic still holding power in the 21st century. Think about that. The very money in their pockets is foreign-controlled. Now imagine a system where local banks offer loans with terms that reflect local conditions, where infrastructure decisions are made by people who actually use the infrastructure, and where investment serves real African needs, not foreign interests. That's what the Sahel Alliance is now building. We all know the big financial institutions, the World Bank, and the IMF. When countries need funding, they go there. But what many don't know is how those loans work. For African nations, borrowing from these institutions often comes with harsh conditions. Let's say Nigeria wants to build a local manufacturing industry. Logical, right? Africa imports over 70% of what it consumes. So we clearly need local factories and industries. But when Nigeria approaches the World Bank for funding, they are told, you must use foreign contractors. You must accept foreign experts. You must pledge your natural resources as collateral. And so what happens? A French company, or sometimes even a Chinese one, is brought in. They bring their own staff, use their own equipment, and when the project is done, or say, building a road, that road cannot generate the $20 billion borrowed to fund it. So what happens when Nigeria cannot repay? The collateral, often gold, oil, or rare minerals, is claimed. That's how mineral wealth is drained, and African countries are left with debt and unfinished projects. Worse still, Much of the money lent never even arrives in the country in any tangible form. It exists as digital numbers, and yet the repayment happens in real resources. Minerals that took millions of years to form beneath African soil. Now ask yourself, is that a fair exchange? This system is what BRICS is fighting to dismantle. That's why they created the new development bank, and now the Sahel Alliance is doing the same thing, on a smaller but strategically powerful scale. Think of the geography. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso cover a massive area in the heart of West Africa. If they were a single nation, they'd be the 7th largest country in the world, larger than India or all of Western Europe combined. And they're not poor. They sit on deposits of gold, uranium, lithium, and more. These are not just commodities. These are critical resources for modern technology and green energy. So, how is it that these countries remain poor while their resources fuel global empires? That is not economic independence, that is economic exploitation. And when these three nations began their military transitions in 2022 and 2023, how did the West and ECOWAS respond? With sanctions. Sanctions that essentially said, obey us or starve. But these nations didn't collapse. They didn't give in. They did something bold. They turned to each other and asked, what if we don't need their system at all? And while the rest of the world argued over TikTok trends and celebrity gossip, the finance ministers of these three nations came together. They didn't create a TikTok shop. They created real financial institutions, a stabilization fund to protect against economic shocks, an investment bank to fund local infrastructure and development, and the foundation of a new monetary union to issue a currency that reflects their economies, their people, and their sovereignty. But wait, didn't ECOWAS promise this too? Yes, back in 2009, ECOWAS announced the launch of a common currency, the ECO. They said it would happen by 2015. It's 2025 now. Still nothing. All we've seen are delays, excuses, and a system still under the thumb of foreign interests. The Sahel Alliance isn't waiting anymore. This new financial bloc is not perfect. There will be challenges. But make no mistake, this is the first real attempt in modern history for African nations to own their economic future from the ground up. And this matters for all of Africa, because if they succeed, the model can spread. It sends a message to every nation still struggling under colonial economic legacies. You can take control. Let me leave you with this. This is not a call for isolation. It's a call for balance. It's a call for dignity in trade, fairness in finance, and sovereignty in development. For too long, Africa has been seen as the beggar of the world. But the truth is, we have been the bankers of the world, supplying its resources, powering its growth, and fueling its industries. Now it's time for that wealth to work for Africans. This is not just the story of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. This is the story of Africa waking up. The world may not be watching, but history is being written. And it's being written by people who've said, enough, we will build our own future. The world rarely changes with a bang. More often, it starts with small tremors that ripple outward. What matters is whether we notice them before the quake hits. If this video made you think deeper or see the world a little differently, consider subscribing to be aware. Because staying informed isn't just smart, it's survival.